World War I occurred between July 1914 and November 11, 1918. Historians pointed out that Archduke Franz Ferdinand's assassination set the world at war. But how did the death of one duke cause a worldwide catastrophe? You see, the actual root causes are much deeper. At the time, Europe was a hotbed of political activities such as alliances, imperialism, militarism, and nationalism. They raced to emerge as a powerful empire with resourceful territories, a military buildup, and strong allies. Countries made mutual defense agreements that would pull them into battle during an attack. However, much of the war's origin was based on the Slavic people's desire. In Bosnia and Herzegovina, they wanted to be part of Serbia instead of Austria-Hungary. In June 1914, a Serbian nationalist terrorist group called the Black Hand assassinated Archduke Franz Ferdinand and his wife while they were in Sarajevo, Bosnia, a part of Austria-Hungary. This led to Austria-Hungary declaring war on Serbia. When Russia began to mobilize due to its alliance with Serbia, Germany declared war. Russia turned to its ally France and Germany. Germany demanded France to stay out of it, but France refused. Germany then declared war on France. Thus began the expansion of the war, including all those involved in the mutual defense alliances. In 1839, Britain and other European powers signed a treaty guaranteeing Belgium's neutrality. Germany's strategy for war was on two fronts. First was to concentrate all their forces to defeat France first, by marching through Belgium and attacking the north instead of the west, taking them off guard, also known as the Schlieffen Plan. Angered by the invasion, the treaty was revoked with Belgium and Britain declared war on Germany. That's when officially World War I began, between the Allied powers consisting of France, Britain, Russia, Italy, Belgium, Serbia, and the Central Powers consisting of Germany and Austria-Hungary. Late in 1914, the Ottoman Empire joined the Central Powers. Japan was an ally to Britain, so they took German areas in China and the Pacific. The 1916 and 1917 were dominated by continued trench warfare. Soldiers fought from dug-in positions, striking at each other with machine guns, heavy artillery, and chemical weapons. The land between the two enemy trench lines was called No Man's Land, which was usually covered with barbed wires and landmines. Though soldiers died by the millions in brutal conditions, neither side had any substantive success or gained any advantage. Despite the stalemate on both fronts in Europe, two important developments occurred in 1917. To understand this better, let's go back to 1915. In May, a German U-boat sunk the British passenger ship Lusitania, carrying military equipment off the coast of Ireland. Over 1,000 passengers were killed, including 128 Americans. In further response to Britain's blockade, Germany turned to unrestricted submarine warfare to keep goods from reaching Britain. After the sinking of the Lusitania, Germany promised to stop unrestricted submarine warfare. But in less than a year, they torpedoed a passenger ship, and yet they promised not to attack without warning. This pledge was short-lived as well. Coming back to 1917, German Foreign Minister Arthur Zimmermann sent a telegram to Mexico, suggesting that if the US declares war on Germany, Mexico should declare war on the US. In return, Mexico would get back the territory lost in the Mexican-American War, now known as Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona. Unfortunately, the telegram was intercepted by the British and hurriedly given to the Americans. Mexico had no intention of declaring war on the US, but the letter mobilized American against the Central Powers. Thus, on April 6, 1917, the US declared war on Germany. In November, the Bolshevik Revolution, wherein the working class revolted against the monarch, Tsar Nicholas II, prompted Russia to pull out of the war. Although both the Central and the Allied powers launched attacks in 1918 in an all-or-nothing effort to win the war, both efforts failed. The fighting between exhausted, demoralized troops continued to plod along. In August-September, French and American troops succeeded in driving home an exhausted German army. Meanwhile, deadly influenza took heavy tolls on soldiers of both sides. Eventually, the governments of Germany and Austria-Hungary began to lose control as they experienced mutinies from the military and the civilians. On November 11, 1918, the Germans signed an armistice in which they agreed to surrender their arms, give up much of their navy and evacuate occupied territory. Yet the aftermath was an equally ugly picture. 17 to 50 millions, including civilians, died worldwide. Countries saw inflation, land became unusable for farming, railroads were in ruins, and settlements were destroyed. The Treaty of Versailles, signed in June 1919, codified peace between the Allied and the Central Powers, but they punished Germany and its allies severely. Apart from giving up the above mentioned, Germany had to pay $33 billion in reparations. Little did we know that the peace treaty, which ended the First World War, would cause a much more disastrous war in the near future. What exactly did the peace treaty do? Did peace prevail? What led to the next World War? Stay tuned for it in the next video. Until then, let us know what you learned by commenting below. Don't forget to share and subscribe for more.